Welcome to the 24.18-hour podcast, where better sleep starts with better understanding.
We spend about a third of our lives doing it, but, a lot of us still see sleep as this passive thing.
Right, like your brain just runs out of battery and shuts down.
Exactly. But the truth is so much more exciting. Sleep isn't passive at all. It's an active, regulated, and honestly, sometimes a competitive biological process happening deep inside your brain.
And that's what this deep dive is all about, the neural circuitry, these chemical squads and switches that are deciding if you're awake or asleep.
Understanding this balance is really the foundation of understanding your sleep.
So the big idea for today is this. Mammalian sleep and waking are determined by a dynamic balance between multiple chemically distinct systems that are actually fighting each other.
Mutually inhibitory, yeah. You have arousal systems and sleep-promoting systems all located throughout the brain. It's a constant but very organized chemical battle.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, before we jump into that battle, let's nail down some of the key terms just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Good idea. Let's start with the basics.
First up, NREM sleep. That's N-R-E-M. You hear scientists say it all the time.
Right. NREM stands for non-rapid eye movement sleep. And this is, generally your deepest, most physically restorative sleep.
And on an EEG, what does that look like?
It's characterized by the synchronized electrical discharge. Basically, all the neurons are firing together in unison, and that's what creates those classic big, slow waves.
Okay, got it. Next, the players. Let's talk about the arousal systems.
So these are clusters of nerve cells, neuronal groups, and they're found all over in the midbrain, the hypothalamus, the forebrain.
And their job is just to be the on button.
That's a perfect way to think about it. Their entire purpose is to facilitate waking and alertness.
And fighting them, we have the preoptic area, or POA.
The POA. Yeah, this is a tiny but absolutely critical region in the front of the hypothalamus. It contains the main sleep-promoting neurons.
So if the arousal systems are the on button,
a POA is the control tower hitting the off switch.
And how do they talk to each other? I'm guessing that's a neurotransmitter.
Exactly. A neurotransmitter is just the chemical messenger that nerve cells use to communicate. And depending on the chemical, it can either excite, turn on, or inhibit, turn off, the next neuron.
Which leads us to the POA's favorite weapon, GABA.
Ah, yes. GABA, or gamma-aminobutyric acid. This is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain.
The ultimate mute button.
It is. It's what the POA releases to actively shut down those wake-promoting arousal systems.
Okay, one last term, and this one's a big one for wakefulness. Orexin.
Orexin, sometimes called hypocretin. It's a really powerful wake-promoting chemical signal. It's like a stabilizer for the whole system.
And the sources are really clear on this. The loss of these specific orexin neurons is what causes narcolepsy.
It is. It shows you just how devastating it is to lose your most potent wake stabilizer.
Okay, that gives us the cast. So where is all this happening?
Right. Let's talk about the general locations of sleep-wake control, because it's not all in one spot.
No, it's really distributed. The circuitry is spread across three major brain areas: the brainstem, the diencephalon, which includes the hypothalamus, and the telencephalon, or the forebrain.
And you can kind of divide it up. The systems that keep you awake are mostly in the midbrain and the posterior or back and lateral parts of the hypothalamus.
The engines of alertness.
That's right. And then the main system for putting you to sleep, our central sleep control, is almost entirely in that preoptic area, the POA, right at the front of the hypothalamus.
What I found fascinating is how robust this all is. The source says that even an isolated lower brainstem,
without the forebrain attached.
Right, it can still generate basic NREM-like and REM-like states on its own.
It's incredible. So what this all means is that the core machinery for sleep isn't just in our highly evolved thinking brain. It's ancient. It's deeply embedded in our primitive brainstem.
We just established that sleep and wake control is spread across the brain, with the wake areas mostly in the back and the sleep center, the POA, in the front. This connects because to understand how that sleep center works, we first have to look at the incredibly loud wake squad it has to silence. Next, we'll cover the specific chemically distinct systems that drive arousal.
The wake squad, the arousal systems. Okay, you said chemically distinct. So how many are we talking about here, and what do they all do?
Yeah, it's not one signal, it's this sophisticated cocktail. There are 6 functionally important arousal systems, and each one uses its own unique neurotransmitter.
That complexity is important. It creates redundancy, but also allows for, different flavors of being awake.
Exactly. So let's hit a few key ones. First, you've got histamine. This drives global arousal. It's why antihistamines make you so drowsy.
Right. Then there's serotonin, or 5-HT, and norepinephrine, NE. They regulate things like attention, mood, and motor activity.
And we have to bring up orexin again. If the others are important, orexin is like the master regulator. It provides this powerful, stable signal that really anchors you in wakefulness.
For sure. And the last two are acetylcholine, and dopamine.
Together, these 6 systems reach out all over the brain. Their main job is to excite your cortex and thalamus, controlling everything from your brainwave patterns to your motor control.
But they're not all on at the same time, are they?
No, and that's a key point. You can classify them by what they do during REM sleep. Serotonin, norepinephrine, histamine, and orexin are all REM off. Their activity just plummets during dreams.
But acetylcholine and dopamine are different. They're REM on. They stay highly active when you're awake and when you're in REM state.
So what does this all mean for you? Your feeling of alertness is not from one single chemical. It's a highly sophisticated multi-chemical cocktail of activators, all working together to keep your brain in a global state of arousal.
We've identified the 6 major neurotransmitter systems that keep the brain alert and excited. This connects because for sleep to happen, this powerful wake squad has to be actively shut down, which leads us to the preoptic area. Next, we'll cover the brain's main sleep initiating center, the POA, and its primary weapon, GABA.
The sleep switch. The preoptic area, POA.
Okay.
So we know this is the sleep center in the front of the hypothalamus. How does one tiny area manage to override 6 major wake systems?
It's the critical orchestrator of sleep. Inside the POA, you have these specific clusters of sleep-active neurons, particularly in places called the VLPO and the MNPN. These are the main drivers.
And these cells aren't just passive. They dramatically ramp up their activity during both NREM and REM sleep.
Right, which confirms they're initiating the state. And they're also super responsive to signals that increase your sleep drive, like being awake for a long time or even just your body temperature rising.
The chemical mechanism is the key. These neurons are primarily GABAergic, meaning they release GABA,
And that's our inhibitory neurotransmitter.
the brake pedal. And here's the critical move. These GABA neurons in the POA project directly to the cell bodies of the major wake systems we just talked about: histamine, orexin, serotonin, norepinephrine.
So it's a targeted attack.
A very targeted attack. Through this direct inhibition, the POA actively forces the transition from waking to sleep.
So what does this all mean? The POA doesn't just wait for you to get tired. It acts like a central controller, actively releasing GABA to hit the mute button on your entire wake squad, and that's what initiates sleep.
We established that the POA uses the inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA to actively shut down the wake systems. This connects because this mutual inhibition creates a really elegant mechanism that prevents you from being in some unstable, half-awake, half-asleep state. Next, we'll cover the model that describes this relationship: the flip-flop switch.
The flip-flop switch model. Okay, I can picture this tug of war. But how does a switch keep us in stable sleep for hours instead of just flipping back and forth constantly?
This is where it gets really cool. It's a tug of war, but one where the rope locks into place. These reciprocal inhibitory connections, them inhibiting each other, create what's called a bistable flip-flop switch.
Bistable meaning it has 2 stable states.
Exactly. Fully on, which is waking, or fully O-off, which is sleep. There's really no in-between.
So let's break that down. The POA inhibits the arousal systems with GABA.
Right. But, and this is the feedback loop, several of the key arousal systems like acetylcholine, serotonin, and norepinephrine also send signals back to inhibit the POA.
So they're both pushing down on each other.
Yes, and that's what creates stability. When one side, let's say the waking systems, gets activated, it not only promotes alertness, but it also pushes down on the POA.
And with the POA inhibited, it can't inhibit the wake systems anymore.
You got it. It's self-reinforcing. By silencing your opponent, you remove the brakes on yourself. This locks the brain firmly into either sustained waking or consolidated sleep.
And this has real clinical relevance, right?
Absolutely. When this switch is faulty, you get instability. The sources suggest this could be what's happening in insomnia with fragmented sleep, or in narcolepsy with fragmented waking and sudden sleep attacks. The switch just can't hold a stable state.
So what does this all mean? This flip-flop switch is why you are usually either fully awake or fully asleep. It prevents those unstable transitional states by making sure that when one side is on, it's actively suppressing the other.
We've explored the flip-flop switch, which uses mutual inhibition to stabilize our states over short time spans. This connects because while the flip-flop handles the rapid changes, the body also needs a way to track the long-term, cumulative drive for sleep. Next, we'll cover the sleep factors. the specialized molecules that manage sleep homeostasis.
Sleep chemistry, homeostatic regulators. So these are the chemicals that build up while we're awake, the ones that create sleep pressure.
That's a perfect way to put it. They're tracking the brain's sleep debt. These sleep factors are the neurochemical agents that signal to the body that it's time for sleep's various restorative functions.
And the most famous one has to be adenosine.
Oh, absolutely. Adenosine is the quintessential sleep promoter. It builds up the longer you're awake, and it's thought to be a signal that your brain's energy reserves are getting low.
Which is, of course, why caffeine works.
Right. Caffeine is an adenosine antagonist. It slides into the adenosine receptors in your brain and blocks them so the on-tired signal from the adenosine can't get through.
You feel awake, but the debt is still there.
The debt is still there. Then you have things you might not expect, like pro-inflammatory cytokines, like interleukin-1.
IL-1. This increases sleep, especially deep NREM sleep. It's linked to immune function. It's why when you get sick, you feel overwhelmingly sleepy. That's the cytokines at work.
There's also growth hormone-releasing hormone, or GHRH. This also promotes NREM sleep, and it's tied to anabolic processes, physical repair and building molecules.
And finally, a really interesting group, oxidative stress signaling molecules.
Yeah, things like nitric oxide. These promote sleep because they're signaling that there's been a buildup of cellular damage oxidative stress from being awake, and it's time for cleanup.
So what does this all mean? Sleep is an active repair state. These specialized chemicals are like messengers that build up all day, telling the POA that the body needs immediate energy restoration, detoxification, and immune support before it can safely stay awake any longer.
We've covered the key chemical messengers that drive the homeostatic need for sleep and the restorative jobs. This lets us clear up some common misconceptions that are still out there from older research.
Okay, let's hit these 3 corrections based on the modern science.
Correction 1. What brain regions are needed for sleep? The myth is that you need your whole thinking brain, the neocortex, to generate sleep states.
And the correction is false. Early studies showed that even with the neocortex removed, the lower brain structures could still produce NREM-like and REM-like states. The core machinery is much deeper and more ancient.
Correction 2. The nature of arousal control. The old myth of the reticular activating system, or RAS, was that one big switch turned the brain on.
Yeah, and the correction is false. That idea is gone. We now know arousal is driven by several discrete neuronal groups. The 6 different chemical systems we talked about, like histamine, serotonin, and orexin. It's a team effort.
And correction 3. What happens when you lose one of these systems? The myth is that destroying one arousal system would cause severe permanent sleepiness.
But the correction is not necessarily. With the very important exception of orexin, losing one of the other arousal systems often has only small long-term effects.
Why is that?
It comes down to redundancy. The other systems can compensate over time. The whole thing is built to be incredibly robust.
Great. So to wrap up this deep dive into the brain's sleep switchboard, let's do 5 quick takeaways.
1. Opposing forces. Waking and sleep are run by opposing, mutually inhibitory systems. The arousal systems are in a constant tug-of-war with the sleep-promoting systems.
2. The POA's role. The preoptic area is the main sleep control center. It uses the inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA to actively silence the wake systems and start sleep.
3. The wake team. Your brain's alertness is powered by a team of key neurotransmitters, including serotonin, norepinephrine, histamine, orexin, acetylcholine, and dopamine.
4. The flip-flop. That mutual inhibition between the sleep and wake centers creates a bistable switch, which is what gives you stable, consolidated periods of being either awake or asleep.
And 5. Restorative chemicals. Your long-term sleep drive is managed by chemicals like adenosine and IL-1, which track the body's need for energy restoration and immune function.
And for our final provocative thought, since the preoptic area links sleep initiation directly with thermoregulation, and we know sleep onset naturally lowers your body temperature,
consider that maybe one of the most fundamental ancient functions of sleep is to serve as a body cooling mechanism, a way to recover from the heat that builds up during an active, energy-intensive day.
Thank you for listening to the 24.18 Hour podcast. We hope you sleep well and dream easy.